Thank you for joining in. You are listening to Chennai International Center's podcast on COVID-19 second wave unanswered questions. We have Dr. Jaiprakash Mulil, India's leading epidemiologist, with us to address questions from our listeners. This is episode 3 in the series, which is all about vaccines and what we need to know. Dr. Mulil, you did speak about vaccines and how effective they are against the new variants in our previous episode. For the benefit of our listeners, could you also explain the recommended periodicity, how our response will be to the vaccines in that case, and will a booster dose of an alternate type prove better?
Well, the vaccine will be good because the virus is an immunogenic virus. Now remember, we are actually, like when you give an antibiotic, the antibiotic goes inside and kills the virus, bacteria. In the case of vaccine, we don't do that. We introduce the same antigen as in the virus and we tickle up the T cell, and T cells get upset with that and start fighting them. In other words, we program the T cell to recognize this antigen. Now, vaccine lasts for a few days only, but the T cell memory is what we are depending on. And in our body, every individual knows how to do this. Exceptions are there, we have got some genetic disorder, but otherwise we all know. You don't need to be immunologist to know. Everybody, even an illiterate person's body knows how to do all this complicated immunological work. So vaccine comes in also. They produce this kind of a product. Now, till now, we haven't had a completely escaped mutant, which is not recognizing our immune system. So we think the vaccines will work. Laboratory evidence suggests it will work. There have been reports that some don't work as efficiently as others. But these are stray reports and we need to wait and see what happens. We need empirical evidence in terms of the vaccine recipient getting infected, and then we'll know. But in this context, you have to remember one thing. Corona infection normally comes through the nasopharynx and oropharynx. And that's where all the receptor sites are there. And that's where the multiplication starts. And that process stimulates all our neck lymph nodes. And deep inside these nodes are where the abiding place of the long-lasting T cell and B cell. They learn and they store the memory. When you do the vaccination, it also does something similar to that. But this highly concentrated attack on the throat is missing. And what happens is, it is possible to get transient infection of the nose and throat after vaccination. In creating the vaccine, people recognize this fact that there may be a transient oral or pharyngeal infection. What vaccine manufacturers promise is that you will not get serious or a fatal outcome. And that is how our protective effect calculated. A protective effect of 90% indicate that the people who are vaccinated, they will experience 90% less severe or fatal illness as compared to unvaccinated. It's a relative measure. So you reduce the chance of getting into trouble considerably by taking vaccine. But you will see reports that are, like I said, people have transient infection of the throat, and most of them recover very nicely. Now, here is the interesting question. Does that particular colonization make even the throat stronger against future infection? I don't know. Somebody should do the research. But this is what people are looking at. Okay? So vaccine prevents the bad outcome. Now remember, many people who get the corona infection, they get some clinical infection, mild infection. We don't mind the virus in that context. Only it creates trouble for us. And the reason why it creates trouble is in some of us are unable to mount a quick T-cell based response early enough. So we train the T-cell in advance so that the quicker response comes in and you don't get serious illness. So at the moment, we have a clear, very good evidence to say the vaccines are good. And here and there is a issue, like, there are a lot of US reports about South African strain and Brazilian strain. It is a changing picture. But at the moment, we find that the vaccine are not causing post-vaccination serious illnesses very, very rare. In fact, I think in US, CDC has calculated 1 in a million vaccinated people may have a serious or a fatal outcome. But that is the price we have to pay. And the answer, is it better vaccine? I suppose. But we haven't got any new mutant so far, which is completely escaping our immunity. So for the present, we are safe. Now, don't ask me, will there be a third wave when such a mutant comes? Of course, there will be a wave. And what will you do? Remember, the first defense is your own immunity. If it can meet this coronavirus, the new coronavirus also we will be able to meet. By the time, the new vaccine production will be faster, so we have hope that nothing dangerous will happen to us.
So why are vaccines not recommended for children? After all, they get so many vaccines of antiviral type, and so why not COVID-19?
Remember, vaccine is safe, but there's also occasional problem. Now, there is always a risk and a benefit. And if you give 1 million children vaccination and 10 of them get sick for some reason, parents won't forgive us, right? At the moment, the rate of serious illness in children is very, very, very low. So at the time, that is what we keep looking at. And the good centers in India will be able to guide us in terms of how often this happens. Okay? And to my knowledge, I'm an optimist in this case. I may go wrong, but at the moment, there is no evidence that we need to give children vaccination yet.
So our next question is about the types of vaccines available today. I'm sure people would have asked you this question many times in the past as well. Are the Indian-made vaccines like Covaxin recognized in other countries? And what are the chances of acceptance of this over, let's say, Covishield?
This particular killed vaccine actually provokes a wider range of antibody production. Now that is interesting in two contexts. One, it sort of prepares us for any small mutation here and there. That is one way to look at it. On the other hand, because of the plethora of antigen, is there any chance of it triggering a response that is not very safe? So far, neither of these assertions have come out as positive. In the case of the Oxford vaccine which we use, it is supposed to be safer because the technology used in it, because it's targeting one particular protein, which is the most crucial protein in this context. Now, AstraZeneca vaccine has got into a lot of trouble with this problem of, blood clots and things like that. Now, this is an area which are there a lot of controversy. They say it's all right, then they say there's some problem, and that goes on. And I also get information mainly from them. But one thing we know, in India, we don't see that much of thrombotic problem as they say in the West. So, and why is that? I don't know again, but some of the physicians who are more competent than me tell me is probably our diet itself is anti-thrombotic. We use garlic and ginger and all in our diet. They are less likely to get into thrombosis. I don't know. Now, this is kind of I'm not talking science. I'm a scientist when it comes to epidemiology, but this I don't know. But we haven't faced too much of the problem in India. And thing is, I do wonder. Luckily, AstraZeneca vaccine is used in other countries also. Their monitoring is much more stringent than we in India. That is true in terms of side effects and things like that. So I'm happy with that. And I hope there are some countries who have asked for the other vaccine. And I hope their monitoring will be the Covaxin. The question is, we need to have this monitoring of side effects very carefully done. And reluctant to do it actually causes us problems. Because the way, if every government in the world trusts our regulatory mechanism, then a vaccine produced in India would also be selling like hotcake elsewhere. When we relax our, stringency, then there is a price to pay for it. So it is a complicated thing. And I think we will just leave that question now because it may be sensitive to do with it. But to me, at the moment, remember, it is not the vaccine that works. It's our T cells that work. In both cases, our T cells know how to recognize the antigen and to respond. Okay? So that much we are doing. So the vaccine is a generic name. You have some proprietary name attached to it. The body is not interested in all those. It wants to see the protein. You present the protein and the T cell will act accordingly. So I think that should be enough for now.
With the massive pan-India vaccination drive, how do we place our hope? How do we see the herd immunity in context, and what are the chances of disease recurrence?
Well, we have at the moment a problem with the supply of vaccine. I'm hoping that we will have enough to supply for 45 and above. Remember, we each day at the moment, 3 lakhs into 30 approximately, we are infecting, new infections is about 1 crore. Now that is equal to vaccination, mind you. Not that we want that to happen. It is spreading. It has spread. So previously infected people also contribute to the herd immunity. Not everybody agrees with that, I know, but that is the fact. Okay. So at the moment, the target should be definitely above 45, because in case they have not been infected, this protects them from serious outcome and death. And if that focus is lost, and we take some sort of a roundabout rule of immunizing everybody above 18, then we may lose the target population which are in trouble. Our objective should be reduce mortality. Herd immunity will follow.
That brings us to the end of this episode, which was all about vaccines. Thank you, Dr. Mulil, for joining us in this episode. We look forward to having you back again in the next episode to discuss about long COVID and the disease spread.